Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another story within lieu of murder. This is Amanda Marie.
And this is Ainoa. Today we're going to be talking about the Menendez brothers. Now, this case is in the news right now because they just got a new trial. The reason they got a new trial is because they're claiming their sentencing was unconstitutional, considering the things that they went through. But we're going to be talking more about that in a minute.
Yes.
Okay, so on the night of August 20th of 1989, Lyle and Eric Menendez murdered their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez. So let's talk a little bit about their parents, Jose Menendez. He was actually he had completed his American dream, and he came from absolutely nothing. He was born in Havana, Cuba in 1944, and his father was a soccer player. His mother was a star swimmer. And a member of the country's sports hall of fame. So although they weren't like the elite, they weren't like rich, they definitely had a comfortable life in Cuba. But when after Fidel came into power, the parents were nervous, right? Because there was like a lot of turmoil after the Cuban
Mhm.
Revolution, and they sent Jose to the United States with practically no money. He didn't speak the language. He was living in somebody's like attic, right?
Could you
Um,
imagine?
no, I can't. We live such a even though we're not privileged at all, I feel like the struggles of moving to a new country without any money, any help, any and how people like go. I admire those type of people, the people that move to a foreign
They just
country
come with nothing, like
that
with no resources and no plan.
and no plan, and they make something of themselves
Like, because
because
I know I'm a pretty swift catcher honor. I don't know if that's a word at all, but I don't know if I could do that.
well, and like neither do I. I feel it's honestly, I think when you're growing up with nothing, if you fight harder to have something as opposed to you have it like comfortable and stuff like that, maybe you don't fight as much because every things are given to you, kind of like you're a little spoiled. um but Jose, he did okay in school. He was actually a really good swimmer, so he got a scholarship to Southern Illinois University. And when he was a freshman, he met a senior, Mary Louise Kitty Anderson. And shortly after being with her, they married when they were only 19 years old in 1963. And they relocated to New York City. And that's where Jose transferred to Queens College. Now, he went there and he tried to become a CPA because
Okay.
hey, this is a career choice that's going to make me some money. And, even nowadays, I think CPAs make pretty good money, to be honest with
Yep.
you. Yeah. So, um, they had 2 children, Eric and Lyle. One in 1968 and the other one in 1970 and respectively. And to support his family, Jose determined that, to make something of himself. He started working at Coopers and Lybrand Accounting. That's a firm out of New York. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and but from there he progressed. He kept working really really hard, and he ended up working for RCA Records. So, because he was doing accounting for Hertz, but then they
RCA
promoted.
Records is a big that's a big name, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he was transferred to the records division, where he was named chief operating officer. So he had made it. He was making a lot of money. He relocated to Beverly Hills, which is like super affluent neighborhood. I mean, he had everything he could have ever dreamed of, and he came here penniless. So,
That's an amazing come up story, you know what I mean?
yep, that was the father. However, I feel like, and we'll touch on this a little bit more later. I feel like when you have a father that has, and he seems to be that way, that has made something, worked so hard to make something of himself, and he can also be a very demanding father from his children. And I think there were
Demanding,
dreams.
sorry, like strict or demanding like you they must plan and they must do this and things like that,
Well,
or both,
strict definitely, but also demanding when it comes to, I think all parents have this idea of what we think our children could be or should be in life. And a lot of us, including myself sometimes, if we feel like we want the things for them that maybe we wanted for ourselves. And so Jose was very into sports. He wasn't a good enough swimmer or a good enough tennis player to become professional and make that his career. Even though
right?
he did go to college on a scholarship for swimming, but that wasn't something that he was good enough that it was going to, take him to where he wanted to be. But he felt that if I think he wanted that from his children. He also wanted to go to Princeton, but he didn't have the money to go to Princeton. He got one of his kids into Princeton, and the other one was playing tennis, but he was seen to be very aggressive with both of his children. Like cursing whenever they would make a mistake or being super like angry at them at matches, etc., etc. He seemed to be very, very like a very demanding parent, and they had to be perfect. And if they weren't
Got it.
perfect, it was a problem, right? And that's with both kids. But that's just as far as Kitty, she was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
She had been a teacher though. So she was a teacher, but then she had her kids and she decided to stay at home because to be honest with you, Jose did make all the money that she could ever need. Jose was also a cheater of sorts, if you say. He had a lot of affairs. So
Got it.
Kitty was definitely taking probably way too many prescription pills and drinking probably a little bit too much to cope with, the issues in her marriage, etc. Now, I do want to say, for those of you out there that have seen the Netflix show, because there is a Netflix show about this.
I haven't seen it, by the way. Aren't there
Okay.
more than one, like, shows about them, though?
No, there's definitely more than one show about the monsters, which is the most recent one from Netflix. I watched it, and I have to say that Netflix is doing this thing, and I hate that they're doing this, but they're taking a lot of creative liberties when telling stories and mixing a lot of fact with fiction. And I think, I mean, they've learned from Baby Reindeer because it doesn't say this is a true story on this on this
Right.
one. But they did the same thing with Baby Reindeer. They took a lot of creative liberties and mixed fact with fiction, and it bit them in the ass because they put this is a true story at the beginning of the episode. Um, but with this one, I feel like they're doing the same, and it kind of sucks because it especially with them having a new trial now, it doesn't always paint them by this I mean the brothers, it doesn't really paint them in a positive picture all the time, or
I
most of
don't
the
think there's
time.
ever been a positive picture painted about them. Are you gonna paint one for us?
I mean, I'm just gonna tell you the facts. I'm not gonna say that my personal opinion is I do think that there is legitimacy to what they're saying. But you can make up your mind if
We'll talk about
with
it at the end
yeah, with what I tell
because I know
you.
the basics of the Menendez story just from being alive, but I don't know the details, and I've never dove into it at all. In fact, when you told me about doing the story and that you were gonna tell it, I purposely didn't do research so that I couldn't have a biased opinion either way yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think once we get into the trials, I will explain a little bit more. But I feel like there was a disservice. I think they did if they got uh if they got the court system to rehear their case or redo a sentencing hearing, it's because of like legitimate reasons. I feel like culture has changed nowadays, where before maybe boys weren't abused, you know what I mean, like males abused was
Couldn't
not a
be
thing.
abused. Got
Yeah,
it.
males couldn't be abused. I feel like that our ideals around that have definitely changed, and so I think
How
that's
old were they when this happened?
when the murders happened.
Yes.
Okay, so the murders happened on August 20th, 1989. One of them was born in 1968 and the other one in 1970. So
One was
um
like 21.
yeah, and the other one was about to go to college.
Okay, so like 18, 19, probably, so between 17
Yeah.
and 19. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just trying to get a understanding of the mind frame of that age, if you know what I mean, because, we all know around that age between 17 to 22, 23, sometimes even 24, you think you're grown, but you have no idea what the real world's like. You have no idea
Mhm.
what it's really like to survive in the real world, especially if you come from any form of a privileged or comfortable lifestyle. You're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I can just go get a job and then I can pay bills." And then you get your job and you realize your job don't cover your bills. And you're like, "Wait, how do my parents do it?" Well, it's because your parents have jobs that pay them 3 times the amount you're getting paid right now. So,
Yeah. No, they were
um,
still definitely kids. And
got it.
yeah, they were still even not 21 or because one of them was in college, like I said.
Yeah, but still, that's a child.
Yeah, your brain's not definitely not mature. Mine apparently didn't mature until like 5 years ago. Found that out
Right,
recently.
right. So then we have to throw into play, you know, do they have any disorders like ADHD? Because if so, their brain wasn't even mature then.
Yeah, and back then ADHD, I don't think that was diagnosed so easily,
No.
to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like today where it's a 45-minute test and boom, you have it.
Yeah. But so Lyle, he's the one that's older. He was in Princeton. He had gotten in trouble a couple times for like plagiarism and cheating. Um
Uh-huh.
so he was back home because he had gotten suspended for the cheating. Um and this thing happened a few weeks, like a couple weeks, I think, before the murders happened, where they were sitting down at the dinner table, right? And Lyle, I keep calling him Kyle because Lyle doesn't seem like a real name to me.
It's like they forgot a letter.
Yeah, it's like they forgot a letter. They misspelled their own name, damn it. But so Lyle informs his parents that he wants to get married, and his parents say, she's not of a good family, she's not good enough for you. And the mom's like, you're too young. And he's like, why are you guys being hypocrites, right? Because you guys got married when you were 19, so why am I too young? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
um Now, and this was this I did fact check it, so this did actually happen. They do show this in the Netflix show as well, but basically, an argument ensues where the mom rips out his hairpiece because Lyle had been losing hair, and his dad took him to get like a hairpiece for his alopecia situation that was going on. So yeah,
And
that
his
young and
mom ripped it out?
yeah, because Lyle called her a hypocrite, and she said, "Psh, who's a
Oh
hypocrite
no.
now?"
Oh no.
Amanda, that shit threw me off. I was like, "Who's moaning?"
I was trying to just find a laugh, and then that one played. I was
Mm,
trying to find this.
okay, I'm not sure that that was better, but
No, go ahead.
the mom, she was being petty as fuck. She was like, "Who's a fucking hypocrite?" and ripped that shit right off. So, he that confrontation got both of the brothers talking, and that's when Eric um opened up about what had been going on between him and his father, right? Apparently
Any
his
idea how long that had been going on?
since he was really really young,
Okay.
um really
So
really
his whole
young.
life pretty much.
Yeah, I think, they mention I'm not su I think they mentioned 2nd grade. So, what's that? 6 or so?
Yeah,
7?
6 or 7, yep, just depending on when his birthday falls, but yeah.
Yeah. So, so that's when and that's what started this, according to them, this whole plan where, they started talking about it. The Lyle confronted his father saying, excuse me, the wine. Saying, "Hey, he argued with his father regarding the situation because he had Lyle had this had happened to
Excuse me.
Lyle as well. This had happened to Lyle as well, and so
And the
when
2
Lyle
brothers had never really talked about it.
no, they never had talked about it.
Got it.
When when he found out, he confronted his father like, you promised me that you weren't going to touch Lyle and you lied. And then he told his father, if you don't stop, because this was still happening even to that day, I'm gonna tell someone." And
Mm,
so and this is what they say happened, of course. And so the father, according to them, got really angry, said, "You're not gonna do that." And after the argument, Lyle was left feeling like maybe their life was in danger, right? According to them. And I'm saying according to them after everything I say because I wasn't there. So I don't know if this is actually what happened. This is just
you
according
can
to them.
also just say allegedly.
Allegedly. All of the things that I say are alleged. Also, before I continue, because I always forget to say this, like viewer discretion, uh the show may contain graphic descriptions of violent acts of sex. Sure. Nature. There you go.
We should just say nature.
Of just violent acts of nature.
Violent acts of nature covers everything.
It covers everything. Even squirrels attacking you just
It
covers
does.
everything.
I
Yep.
mean, you can't change how the world works. And I
You
that's why I
really
always
can't.
put the trigger warning, warning. Trigger warning, warning. Yes.
Okay, so let's continue. They they start planning. Well, not planning. I don't want to say planning, but they kind of talk about how they need to like protect themselves, and I think they were planning, to be honest with you. I think at this point they were
They were
planning on how
discussing
to
their
kill.
way out.
Yeah, they're discussing their way out. Um, they went to different stores to try to get guns. One of the stores, they had to like wait for 2 weeks for a gun. Um, so because they had to pass a background check, and it took 2 weeks. And then they were like, okay, we cannot wait 2 weeks. So there was urgency. They felt like they really did need protection from their parents, apparently. They drove all the way to San Diego to a different store and used Eric's fake ID to buy two shotguns and some ammunition for those shotguns.
So back then
On
the laws were different in different counties or something, like, they didn't have to wait for a background check in that store, or was that store just, like, not a legit store?
No, it was a legit store. They're just different laws, different counties. So
Got it.
in LA County, they had to wait 2 weeks. So they went to San Diego, which is, I'm guessing, it's a different county. Um, and I don't even know if there's an LA County. Okay, a certain county in LA, because there's probably not an LA County. I don't know. Um, but anyways, they went, they purchased two shotguns, and then they went back home, where Kitty and Jose were just that evening. They were just sitting down, watching, relaxing, watching a movie or TV in their living room, and Eric and Lyle walked in, shotguns in hand. um, they entered the room and they unleashed like a brutal attack. Now, I'm not going to put them on here, but I have seen the pictures of the crime scene, and when I say brutal, I mean brutal. Like, they they didn't just kill them. They just kind of like they annihilated them. Like, there was fingers blown off. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
shotguns at close range, especially, do a lot of damage. You know what I
Right,
mean?
they do.
Yeah. So they butchered them. I mean, Kitty was almost unrecognizable, because of the extent of her
Do
injuries.
you think Kitty knew what was going on? Like, was there any
Yes,
inkling, or do they say that she knew?
I think she did.
Okay.
I think she couldn't have not known. But maybe,
Well, it sounds like it if there was animosity towards her also, you know what I mean? Because typically your animosity is just towards the abuser. But I know as someone who went through abuse, that I also had anger towards an adult that I knew and did nothing about it. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So you would think that that anger would only transfer over, especially considering that was their mom, if she also knew. So go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think she definitely knew. And the reason I say that I think she knew is because part of the evidence that they had, for the abuse, was that, there were a few pictures, um, of the kids, naked, and their head wasn't shown, right? It was just like from like the general area.
Mhm.
And on the envelope that was holding that picture, it was Kitty's writing that said on there, I think it said Lyle's sixth birthday party, or Eric's sixth birthday party, um, or sixth birthday, not party. But so,
That's so sick. That makes me so mad.
yeah, I think from what they have expressed, I think the mom was infatuated with Jose. I mean, she was super submissive, but there was nothing that Jose
She was
could do that.
infatuated with the lifestyle. And I'm not saying there's ever an excuse for murder. I'm not. But I will tell y'all that as an American citizen that knows my gun rights, especially in the state of Georgia, that should that moment ever come in time, I'll take whatever consequences come with it. But weapons are made to defend yourself. And some people will say, oh, it was premeditated. Like, and like I said, I'm just hearing this whole story. So, you know, from coming from a place of someone that's been abused, I get it. And I strongly believe in justifiable homicide. And that's not me saying, "Oh, it's right to go out and kill anybody." But if those people have abused you in a way beyond okay, this is my thing. If somebody punches you in the eye, punch him back. Don't shoot him in the face. You know what I mean? Punch him
Yeah.
back. But
Yeah.
if they have abused you for multiple years or they have created multiple years of trauma that you're gonna have to get over, I believe in justifiable homicide, and that's just my personal opinion. And if something's gonna take you it doesn't take you years to get over a black eye. That
No.
hurts your pride for a couple of days, you
I mean, I've
know?
never had one, but I imagine.
Well, I've never had one either because I can fight, um, but, like, like, okay, here, I can give a perfect example. I've had a bloody lip, my sister hit me in the mouth with a tape dispenser when we were young, and I had braces, and my mom had one of those, like, I don't know, like, one of those office tape dispensers with the sand in the bottom,
Yeah.
and she threw it at my face, and I had braces, so I had, like, a busted lip for, like, a week. So
Oh,
my
wow.
pride hurt for a week, you know what I mean? But it didn't hurt my entire life because I wasn't trying to save my siblings from something else.
Yeah, it
And for
didn't
me, I
scar
think
you
that that's where
forever.
the betrayal for him came from is he thought he was saving his brother that entire time, and he wasn't. The damage was already gonna be there for his brother too.
Now, I will say, whether because of the abuse or not, I do feel that Lyle is a bit, he comes off as a bit of a sociopath. There are some things that he did afterwards that kind of makes you think, hmm, like he
Is Lyle
doesn't.
the younger one?
Lyle is the oldest one.
Okay, the oldest one. Okay, and what kind of things did he do? Sorry.
I mean, I'll tell you now, but
Oh, we can wait
so
till we get further in the story because I wanna get a full opinion of both of them.
okay, yeah. Well, I'll tell you later in the story then.
Okay.
But there are some things that he did that you're like, there's not a lot of remorse here. Eric, however, was the youngest one was definitely having some issues. Internally. But anyways, back to the murder. After they shoot him up, they try to establish an alibi. So they had talked about this shit. They honestly, I do honestly feel like there was some sort of premeditation. If you ask me, in my opinion, I feel like they went and bought the guns because they were like, we have to do this now or never. Um, I also want to make a quick note that the idea that they got this from was from watching a movie. Apparently, one of them, Eric, was watching the Billionaires Club, and in the Billionaires Club, the kids kill their parents for money. So that's how the idea of killing their parents came up. So
And
there
that
are
was whose idea you said, Eric's?
Eric's, yes. Not
Okay,
Lyle's, the
so
oldest, but Eric's, the younger one.
the
Yeah.
younger one's idea came from a movie. Okay, that kinda shows how childish his mind is, but go ahead.
Yeah. So after they murdered them, they went out, tried to get movie tickets for a movie that was like had started at 9:30, but the lady was like, it's 10 something, like 10:45.
They were
Like
trying to establish an alibi.
they were trying to establish an alibi. They couldn't get the movie tickets that they wanted because the movie was almost over. So we're like, we can't sell you movie tickets for that movie. But they after that they went out to a restaurant. They were just trying to establish some form of alibi. Um, then after the restaurant, they went home and realized that there was no police presence, so nobody had called anyone yet. Nobody had heard anything, which to me, like, honestly, gunshot like gunshots are loud as fuck. Like, have you ever heard a gunshot? They're not fucking silent.
Hold on, hold on, hold on. So you mean to tell me every time you hear a gunshot, you call the police?
Well, I don't hear a gunshot, but if I was to hear a gunshot in my neighbor's house, I would probably call the police or at least
So this is how you can tell that we live in 2 different kinds of areas, because I hear gunshots probably at a minimum of 10 times a day.
okay, and because you're in the like the mountains, you're in the wilderness with like where you have bears
Right,
come have
right.
breakfast at
So
your
I can
porch.
tell you that personally, if my neighbor got shot, I wouldn't know
I
because I
understand.
would hear the gunshot and go, "Oh, somebody just killed a deer," or "Oh, a bear was in somebody's yard," or something like that. I wouldn't go, "Oh, someone just killed my neighbor."
Amanda, but this is Beverly Hills. This is like
Right, right.
they're in
So
Calabasas. They're like
this is
there's
Beverly Hills, so logically, it's like, "Oh, the
Beverly
neighbors are doing
Hills.
fireworks."
That's where I want to be.
So, I mean, why would you assume that they thought I would think the neighbors would think it's fireworks?
Why?
Because a gunshot
Why?
from a shotgun and the big cannon things that they light off for fireworks sound exactly the same. I don't remember
Okay,
what those are called.
do that again. Sorry.
They sound the same though, that and a shotgun do. Because 4th of
I
July around here, I don't know if it's shotguns or fireworks. You have to
I
stare at the
understand,
sky.
but last time I checked, there is no holiday on October 20th.
No, but rich people make their own holidays.
Okay.
Listen, if I was rich, I'd shoot fireworks every night just to piss my neighbors off, and maybe I'd shoot a gun or 2, I don't know yet.
But anyways, nobody was there. They walk in, and they call 911. And, of course, they're
Idiot.
like,
Why did they
well,
just leave again?
well, why would they? I mean, it's their house. They just call 911 and we're like, our parents, they're dead. Like um Lyle was the one on the phone and Eric was in the background screaming, ah. They were
They were playing their role.
they were
Got it.
playing their role. Yes, they're not bad actors, to be honest with you. That's why I'm honestly conflicted about my opinions because I do feel like they're telling the truth, but
Really good actors.
they're really good at pretending. But I feel like when you are a kid and you've gone through abuse and stuff like that, you become really good at acting.
You do,
Um
because you can sense other people's emotions and how they're gonna act just based off body language and stuff like that, so then you turn into this weird person that people are like, "How did you know that was about to happen?" "Well, I could tell because she blinked her eye 4 times, so." And that's the reality of it. When you've been in an abusive situation, especially with, like, parents like that, that means that they've had to spend their entire life prepared for whatever was gonna happen next, which is so
exactly. So
scary.
they called 911. The cops showed up, investigated the scene. They Fortunately for the Menendez brothers, they didn't do a gunshot residue. Like they took them in to get their statement, but they never did a gunshot residue on their hands. Like it just,
Was that a normal test back then?
yes. I mean, it was a test that they would do. Yes, but they just didn't do it because I think it was like,
Well, they probably believed them. They were probably upset. That was their parents. And even if they
yeah.
did it, even if they had done it, because it's alleged, in my opinion, until I know for sure. But even if they did do it, it doesn't mean that they didn't react to the trauma because you can do stuff when you're manic. And then once you come down from that mania, you can
Mhm.
react in a normal way that you would react.
Yeah.
So it is very possible that they did it and then turned around and had an emotional outcry from it. They
I
still
can
mourn
tell
the
you,
loss of their parents.
yeah, I can tell you that I don't think it was an emotional outcry when they went in. I think it was all an act. I don't think they were sad, but I think honestly we need to stop vilifying someone feeling relief after f- be freeing themselves from an abusive situation. Like,
Agreed. Now, just to
revilify
play
it.
devil's advocate on what you just said, is murder isn't the right way to free yourself from that kind of situation. Like therapy.
Well, it
And
depends
then
on.
again, I believe in justifiable homicide. If it's a situation you can't get out of, I believe in it by any means necessary.
I don't want to say I believe, that you should seek revenge or anything like that, but to be honest with you, Amanda, in this fucking situation, like if I was a kid and I had been raped and sodomized since I was 6 years old by my father, and I killed him, I mean, maybe later on in a week or two, I would have real feelings of like remorse or sadness because,
I wouldn't.
but originally, the first feeling I would fucking get would be relief that I no longer have to put up with it. I would be fucking happy. Like, I don't know. So, but we vilify this very natural reaction of someone, and like I said, I don't think they were remorseful. Remember words. Remorseful when they called. I don't think they were remorseful when they went to the police station. I think it was all definitely an act. Like I I think it was Eric that, gave the police the mafia theory because
Oh, okay. So there's theories.
there's theories like they mentioned the mafia because his dad was a powerful man. He worked for
Right. He was
RCA
a
Records.
CPA. Yep.
Yeah, so he had connections and he had business dealings with, maybe not all of them were like pleasant individuals. So the mafia scenario was one of the plausible theories. There was another one that was like, well, did Fidel Castro do it?
Absolutely.
So there were some plausible, some not so plausible theories on who did it. There was another one that maybe like a gang from like LA, was mad at. There were just some theories. None of them really
I
plausible.
think it was the LA gang.
The LA gang probably, right? The Bloods or the Cribs, they just got mad at Mr. Menendez and went to his
I
home in
mean, it
Calabasas.
happens. Or the
I
FBI.
still, or the FBI. Yeah, you never know. But so yeah, they gave their statement and they went on about their business. They left the police station and spent the Menendez brothers spent the following months spending as much money as they possibly fucking could. Okay, which
That's
doesn't
a
look
guilty
good on them.
conscience for you.
They they went to buy Rolexes, designer clothes, cars, condos. They were just like, spending
Spending
all the
all the
freaking money.
money.
Yeah, spending all the money. Now, there's a reason for this. The father had threatened to take him, had told them that they were going to be out of the will. The will had not been read yet, because I think it was the dad's brother that was the executor of the state,
Okay.
and he had to come uh to for the reading of the will. And um so they thought they were going to be basically disowned, that their dad had taken them out of the will and there was no money for them after the will was read. So their idea was, we're just gonna spend all the money now because we
Because
ain't
we ain't
gonna
gonna
get
have
it.
none.
Exactly. So they were spending money everywhere. At some point on Halloween night of that same year, um, I mean, I think it was Eric. Eric started becoming really troubled in his head. He kept having nightmares. He kept having nightmares of like killing his parents. And then he couldn't go to sleep until like he killed himself in the dream. Um like he just
Mm.
kept, cuz he was, cuz and deep down he loved his parents. He loved his dad, and
Well, and that's a trauma response. I mean,
yeah.
that's we naturally try to block out anything that's hurting us or is traumatizing, but that's when it comes back because you're supposed to be in rest mode. Like REM sleep is supposed to be like a deep sleep, but
Mhm.
sometimes that deep sleep gets engulfed with our subconscious thoughts.
Yeah, like I sleepwalk when,
Which is so funny, by the way, guys.
yes, and my unconscious
He needs
thoughts
to
tells
YouTube
me
it.
that I need Nutella. That's my unconscious thought. So yesterday was Thanksgiving. I know we record, so it's okay for you guys to know that that this episode is after Thanksgiving. Yesterday was Thanksgiving, and I was super tired because I was all night and all morning, all day cooking. And I usually sleepwalk when I'm super tired. And I woke up this morning and the tub of Nutella was like open and there was a spoon next to it. So I know that sounds so disgusting. I know that I slept walk last night and made my way to the kitchen and ate Nutella with a spoon out of the tub. I'm ashamed
Oh,
of myself.
it's so funny to me when I have never been a sleepwalker. Now, when I am really tired, I don't make sense. Like my words won't make sense. Kind of like when my sugar drops. Like that's how I'll act when I'm really tired. Like I won't really make sense when I'm talking and I'll interchange words. But y'all can ask I know I do that in regular conversation.
Mhm.
Like I'll make up something. Because my brain just can't help it. It just changes words out. Um, I swear it's some form of dyslexia that they don't know I have. I almost had Down syndrome, and I would have felt horrible if that's how it came out. But I know that I meant to say dyslexia, so I'm glad that's the word that came out. Um, but with her, the sleepwalking thing, like I've never been a sleepwalker. I've known sleepwalkers. My sister sleepwalked when we were younger, but only a couple of times that I can remember. But I remember, like, us having to occasionally, like, put something in front of her door or lock her door because she might sleepwalk that night. Um, and yeah, so I maybe we just need to, like, I don't know, tie you to something so that when you do sleepwalk, you can only go so far. Like, put a tether on you like a puppy.
I'm not no fucking dog, Amanda. Just let me be free and
Well,
eat my
then we need to put
Nutella.
a lock on the Nutella.
Now we really do need to do that because it's horrible. Like I'm trying to eat healthy and I'm trying to do good, and then I feel like it's all ruined by my sleepwalking self. Like it's not me.
Your
It wasn't.
sleepwalking self is trying to jeopardize you.
Yes. So like, and my
You
question is,
versus you.
yes, if my sleepwalking self eats the Nutella, do I need to count the calories? Like,
No, only your sleep does. The calories in your dreams, baby.
yeah, those don't count, right?
No, no,
Oh,
Nutella no, sleepwalking calories don't they only count for zombies.
okay. All right. That's good to know. I'm going to tell my dietitian that. But back to the story.
Yes.
On Halloween night of that same year, well, Eric was feeling a little upset. So he decided to go to his therapist. And oh, why did he have a therapist? Well, he had a therapist because when his brother came from Princeton from having cheating, they decided to form this little gang that went around Beverly Hills like robbing houses and got caught. So the judge yeah. So the judge ordered them therapy, both of the brothers. Eric
Both
took
of
the
the brothers
blame.
were part of the gang?
Yes, both of the brothers were part of this gang.
So they
Um,
had already had charges prior to killing their parents?
yeah,
Allegedly
well,
killing?
uh, they did and didn't. So, Lyle kind of got off because Eric took all the blame. Because Eric was a minor. So if Lyle had taken part of the blame, then Lyle would have been like, would have gone on his record. But if Eric takes it, then he's a minor. After he becomes an adult, it's kind of like it goes away. And he's not gonna have it's not going to be that big of an impact on his life. So he took the blame, but they did get therapists. They did get therapy, mandatory therapy. So that's why he had a therapist. So he
Right.
called him up. He called his therapist up, and he was like, "Can I go see you?" The therapist is like, "Okay, come today at 4." So he goes to his therapist, and he kind of reveals what happened.
Okay.
His therapist tells him, call your brother over so we can have a discussion, all of us. Um, After, obviously, Lyle is pissed when he gets the call because this nobody was supposed to know nothing. Like, why the fuck are you at a therapist telling him that we killed our parents? Lyle is pissed. The therapist is, I guess, afraid that they may kill him as well. So he goes and calls his mistress and tells her, which is also a patient, and tells her, "Hey, come on over, just as a witness, just in case something happens." So she does go over. They had broken up, so that was his ex mistress. The reason they broke up is because he kept telling her that he was going to leave his wife. And then he never left his wife because they never leave their wife.
Right.
So,
Right.
so
Ever.
ever. So she comes, she's hesitant, but she does come. And then the brother comes up. They start talking about the situation. Um Oops, sorry. That's the wine making a noise. Anyways, maybe I should stop drinking, but this is fun. Anyways, back to the story. They
Or
leave
another one, guys.
they leave the therapy, and then they go back to the car, and they Lyle at this point is convinced that the only solution is to kill the therapist. But Eric is not on game with that plan. So they continue seeing him. The therapist has, decided, asked them, "Hey, I think this is good that you guys are talking it out, but I feel like as assurance for me, I need to record these sessions." So the brothers, they accede, so they're like, "Okay." I mean, they weren't happy about it, but they were like, "Okay." Because the therapist also told them, if something happens to me, I have all this information and like security deposit boxes, so y'all can't fucking kill me. And I
Yeah,
need
but not in the moment
reassurance.
before. See,
Yeah.
that's a threat. Like, you gotta do what you gotta do. That's justifiable homicide.
Hmm.
You was trying to blackmail me as my therapist. Your job is to listen to me and keep it all in.
Yeah. So the brothers convinced that there was pli- uh pliant client patient confidential uh, client pl-
So it wouldn't be client patient confidentiality because that's the same thing.
client patient
No,
confidentiality.
client and patient are the same thing. So it would be like therapist patient
Patient
confidentiality, like doctor
confidentiality.
patient.
That's what I meant. What did I say?
You
Again?
kept saying client patient confidentiality.
Oh God.
You want me
Please
to write down
somebody.
this time?
Oh, no, 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 we're gonna keep this. This is funny. I
Um,
don't care if I'm being ridiculous.
but
Um,
yeah, you kept saying client patient confidentiality, and I was like, "That's the same thing." You mean like the brothers thought they had that together?
listen, this wine is strong, Amanda. This is drunken history with Ainoa. Just kidding. There's actually a show called Drunken History, and I fucking love it. But
Listen, I
anyways,
don't know why, but when you said that, I wanted to be like, "Yeah, and I'll respond," like we were just starting a new series.
um, but anywho, we were back with the therapist, and the therapist tells him I need for like protection. I need to record these things, and like these sessions, and the Menendez brothers thinking that there was patient doctor confidentiality, they decided that they were going to continue talking about their issues and their turmoil from cleaning
From
killing.
cleaning. Such a horrible life of cleaning.
Yes.
Cinderella, Cinderella.
Killing their parents. um but then, of course, the mistress fucks it all up, Amanda. She fucks it all up. 'Cause she's like, "Hey, you need to convince. I'm afraid for my life. You need to do you love me? You need to convince your wife that she needs to let me stay here at your house, because 'cause I'm afraid for
What?
my life." So the doctor actually convinces his wife to keep the mistress in the, in the house. There was, like, a mother-in-law suite or something, like, and that's where they kept the mistress. Um, and the mistress, well, she started rearranging furniture, um, started telling their children, "If I was your mommy, I would let you have all the candy," and shit like that, to the point where the doctor kicked her out. He was like, "You need to go. Like, this is too fucking much. Like, you need to fucking go. I should have never let you stay in my house. You need to go." Um, and she goes to the police. Because, of course, the doctor told her that the
Yep.
Menendez brothers had confessed. She goes to the police, and the police were desperate. They were absolutely desperate because they thought at this point they had a theory that it was the brothers, but there was nothing that they couldn't prove it. They couldn't prove it at all. They had actually tried.
Right.
They had tried because one so Eric, he had wrote a screenplay months prior to the murder, and I'm talking about months, called Friends. And the screenplay was about how this man decided to murder his parents. Right? I'm not sure why
Well,
the play was called Friends, cuz I don't think that has nothing to do with murdering your parents, but that's what it was called. And so this friend of
wait, I
Eric.
have a quick question. Does anyone know out there in YouTube world when the show Friends started? Because now I'm curious if it started after, like if that name of that show came after he had named his movie or play or book Friends. Just curious. Go ahead.
No, that's a good question. Told you
And
life
start.
was gonna be this way.
Job's a joke, you broke, your love life, something.
DOA. DOA, is that his thing?
It's like you're always stuck in second
In
gear.
gear. No, or even your year, but
I'll be there for you.
no, 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 no.
I'll be there for you.
No, 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 no. I only know that I'll be there for you, but you're singing that part. Oh man, you can fucking tell we're 90s kids, man.
I know. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Well, we were born in the 80s, but I think we grew up in the 90s. Is that why you We're 90s kids, right? Or we're eight.
So I don't really know how that works. I've never asked the question. So when people are like, "What are you?" and I'm like, I just say, "I was an '80s baby,"
Yeah, but okay.
because I
Anyways,
was an
this
'80s baby, but I was a '90s kid.
hmm our ADHD has taken over officially. We're back to the story, you guys. Where was I?
So we were talking
Oh,
about the
yes, the
play or the
friends.
yeah, the Friends.
Okay. So the police had tried to like get a confession from Eric before because they found out this friend of Eric's called the police station and he was like, "Hey, so I talked to Eric and like he more or less kind of confessed to killing his parents, and it's so weird because we wrote this play like months ago called Friends about a kid that kills his parents. So they haven't come over to the police station. They wire him up and he goes to dinner with Eric and Eric says, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like he doesn't trust them. You know what I mean? So they're not able. So the police had already had this thought that it was the brothers that did the murder, but there was no like tangible evidence that would allow them to actually arrest the brothers
Because the
until
brothers had went to dinner at a restaurant,
because the what do you mean because the brothers went to their dinner at a restaurant?
like, because they had an alibi.
Well, not because they had an alibi, because there was no actual evidence. Like the guns were not. They hid the guns, they buried them, so they didn't have the weapons. Um,
They had no evidence really at all. They just knew that the parents were murdered.
Yeah, they had no evidence at all. Like they picked up the shell casings, which is something I should have probably mentioned, but they picked up the shell casings. So they didn't have the weapons of the murder. They of course the kids' fingerprints were all over that house, but they lived there, so why wouldn't they have their fingerprints and
Right.
their DNA everywhere, you know? Not that they looked at DNA back in those days, to be honest with you, but um there was just no evidence, and they had failed to do the gunshot residue test on their hands on that night because they just it was unimaginable that they would kill their parents.
Right.
Um, so they even though the only plausible scenario was that they killed their parents, and there was nothing that they could use to arrest them. Um, until this woman, this mistress came to the police station um and told them about the tapes. And I feel, and this is my personal opinion, I think this was an abuse of power on behalf of the police. They went to the doctor's house and confiscated and listened to the tapes. Now, there is doctor patient confidentiality. They got around that because they said that the Menendez brothers threatened to kill. There was like his life was in danger, like the doctor's life was in danger, which I think
Got
is
it.
absolute bullshit. But that's how they got around being able to use those tapes in court. That's how they got around being able to listen to those tapes. I'm pretty sure they listened to those tapes before they even had a court order, but I may be mistaken. But I mean, that just to me they shouldn't be fucking admissible. If you go to a therapist and you tell the therapist some shit, because
Then
the
that
doc
should be it, because if not, then why would I go to a therapist?
exactly, like if I go to the therapist and tell him I killed my cat, that he shouldn't be able to call like animal authority on me. Not that
Is
I would
that
ever kill my
that
cat.
company? Is that
Huh?
who you call Animal Authority?
Uh, isn't that a place, like a group of people? Isn't that what they're called? Animal authority?
Animal control, maybe?
Oh, yes, that. Same thing. Animal authority, animal control, tomato,
It sounded
tomato.
like the animal police for real. No, man,
Um,
she just called Animal Authority on us.
mm. But anyways, I shall continue. Um, Of course, this gave them enough evidence to arrest the brothers. They arrested Lyle. And then they got he got this lawyer, Ben Shapiro. He was actually one of the lawyers in the OJ trial.
Okay.
So because they had money, right? They could afford a lawyer such as Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro contacted Eric, which was actually in a tennis tournament, in somewhere outside of the country. I forgot where. And told him to come back to the United States. Which honestly, this is how you can tell that he was a fucking kid. Me as an adult,
I would have gone to Norway.
I would have gone anywhere but the United States. But Ben Shapiro
Listen,
told
I
him,
would go to Norway just because of lack of extradition law there.
"Is there a lack of extradition law in Norway?"
There's like 6 countries that have no extradition law, like, or agreement with the US, and Norway is one of them.
Then I would have fucking gone to Norway. Because I mean, the thing is, Ben Shapiro tells Eric, "Hey, you don't want to get caught by Interpol," and he was in a Middle Eastern country at that time that I remember. So he was like, "You don't want to end up in one of those jails after you get caught by Interpol. So I suggest you just come over here back to the United States." So
Right.
he came back to he took the lawyer's advice, came back to the U.S. and was arrested at the airport. Um, After this, um, mind you, throughout all the therapy sessions, the sexual abuse had not come about, and they hadn't talked about it.
So their entire therapy session, I hadn't been brought up at all yet. So no one knew what was going on in these kids,
No,
supposedly going on in these kids' heads.
yeah, no, they
So
hadn't brought it up.
is there any documents or times that prove that there was any abuse that happened?
We'll get into that
Okay.
in a few minutes, but the sexual abuse hadn't come up at all. They were. I think Eric had tried to talk about it, but Lyle was telling him no, because I think they were both really ashamed of
Right.
it having happened. It wasn't until they started talking with the lawyers, and by the lawyers I mean not Ben Shapiro, because Ben Shapiro was like, "I'm done with you guys," because he wanted to do a plea agreement. The brothers wanted to plead not guilty. Um, Eventually, Ben Shapiro quit, said, "I'm done."
Oh,
And
wow.
they
He just
found
dumped him?
uh
He just dumped him, huh?
Ben Shapiro dumped them, yes. Because they were like, "You guys are looking at the gas chamber. You need to take a plea deal," and they didn't want to take a plea deal. They were like, "We're not guilty. We didn't do it. It was Fidel Castro. It was the mafia." They were still holding on to that.
I wanna make a theory.
Okay,
I think
make it.
it was the Zodiac killer.
Okay, maybe. I mean, they never found them. Who knows?
I mean, we could ask him. Rumor is he's dead, but
So how are we gonna ask him? You want to do a Ouija board and just ask the may I speak with
we
the
do
Zodiac?
paranormal episodes now.
We do one. Do that.
You said we do.
I said do. We do. We all do. I think. Anyways, I'm back to the story. So it wasn't until they get these two female lawyers, badass bitches, I'm telling you, um, that Eric, the youngest, opens up. Right. And
So the first time that they really talk about it, Eric is talking to the lawyers about it, correct?
yes, but not the
Okay.
first lawyer, the
Right, the females.
the female
Because he's
lawyers.
probably more comfortable speaking with a female about something like that because back then there was such a stigma that things like that couldn't happen to men because men were stronger.
Yeah, and not only that, I think it's brought on by the fact that the female lawyer, so
Listen, sorry. I have to say this because I know everyone was thinking it too. When your wine bottle came out from the side, it looked like you were about to start blow drying your hair. It looked like the end of a blow dryer, and like you were just gonna mid podcast start blow drying.
I
And I
just
was like, "No,
realized
what are you doing?" See? It looks like a blow dryer.
it does look like a blow that blow dryer.
Blow dryer, bruh.
A blow dryer. Okay, a blow dryer. Anyways, so the lawyer, Eric's lawyer, she catches on to something that he says in therapy, because they had the tapes and they were able to listen to them, and I then brothers mentioned something about, no, we're not going to talk about that. That stays between us. You know what I mean? No, no, it wasn't something in therapy. It was hold on, it was a letter. Now that I remember. Okay, it was a letter. They had written a letter to each other because they were in jail. And they had decided they had made an escape plan. Lyle did. Um, he wrote in a letter to his brother, and the cops found it. The escape plan was that one of their friends was gonna drive their Porsche into the yard. They were going to jump into the car and, just leave and then go to like some country in Europe and then go to another country and end up in Colombia and some shit. They were gonna get plastic surgery and change their hair, and but the police took it seriously and they separated the brothers. They put one of them in one cell, like one wing of the prison, the other one in a different wing. But in that letter, he Eric, or Lyle actually says something about nobody knows what we went through, and the secrets our family has. And so the lawyer says, what secrets? So he asks Eric, the youngest, and Eric finally breaks down and tells her what had been going on, tells her the whole story of abuse, tells her how when it all started, when one day from practice where his father, after practice, said, hey, let me give you a massage, and how that touching each other turn into, giving each other like oral sex, which he called knees. Um he he said he tried to put cinnamon in his coffee and in his drinks because it would taste better, like the cum would taste better. um but from the oral sex, it started, that progressed into like getting things like a toothbrush and stuff like that and inserting them and like into his anus, um to, I guess, train his body to, progressively, um to what
Right,
was
to
to
not
come.
create rips and tears because rips and tears would be proof of abuse. Where if it was, done on a slow basis and worked up to that, it wouldn't look as bad sodomy wise.
Exactly. um and this went on for years. This went on for years, and then, it started with, asking his father asking Eric to do it to him, like having sex, like penetrating his father, turned into his father penetrating him. So there would be niece, which would be oral sex. There would be nice sex, which would be when it was like not aggressive, and then there would be, just aggressive sex. or rough sex, as he would call it, where he would be like whipped and um, hurt and dominated over by his father, and that went on for for years. That was the same thing that had happened to his brother Lyle, which was the oldest of the two. Um, and Lyle actually, at some point, confessed as well that um, he had once or twice done that to his brother as well. His brother Eric. So Lyle had used a toothbrush, not the whole thing, but used a toothbrush on his brother Eric, because he maybe thought it was normal. Because according to that to them, his dad basically told him that he was trying to make them a man. That's what the Romans did. You know, to m- to become men, they would have to know some sort of pain and to go through this process of loving them each other, and he was teaching them how to be tough. um so so yeah, and of course Eric, I mean Lyle, when he did that to Eric with the toothbrush, for instance, I think he was just fucking confused. Like, if my dad is doing this to me, because what he did to Eric, he did to Lyle. You know, they did the same exact fucking thing. But then when Lyle became old enough, like older, and went to away to college, that's when it started with his brother. So, so the brothers open up about the sexual abuse. Um, and at this point, each of the brothers has a different lawyer. So in the first trial, they are um, they are tried separately, but yet together. So they're both in the same courtroom, but they both have different lawyers.
They'll
Both of
both
them,
receive their own sentencing, right?
yeah, their own separate sentencing. Um, and the the defense argues that the Menendez brothers were not, they didn't murder their parents premeditatedly, that it was um basically their parents, or Jose Menendez was a tyrant who subjected them to years of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, and Kitty was complicit through her inaction, and they did it basically to escape a situation. That was their defense, that it wasn't premeditated, it was basically an act of desperation, to try to get out of that situation. That was that was their, what is it called,
Defense.
their defense, yes. Thank you for knowing the words that I don't know. It's the wine, you guys. I'm so sorry. I should have chose. I was debating between wine and coffee. And I was Amanda. This was Amanda's fault, because Amanda was like, "Oh, drink wine." And then I was like, "You know what? Yes." And now here I am. And
I have
I
never once in my entire life said that I'm a good influence.
you
What's
are
funny about it is I don't even drink, so
you are an enabler. But anyways, throughout the first trial, Lyle, which is the one that I think is sociopathic, to be honest with you. He there's something wrong with this man. That's the one with the toupee, the one that's has alopecia. Anyways, he had been getting some like love mail, you know, some "we support you, we love you, I love you" mail. And he connected with this woman, and he was like, I'm gonna write a book, and he was talking to her about how he, acted like he was crying on the stand, how he talked to her about everything, about how he didn't feel sorry, about how he tried to convince other people to lie about about his parents. Like, he sent out letters saying, hey, will you lie and tell them, say that my parent tried to, like, my dad tried to sexually abuse you and stuff like that. So he was trying to write a book, and he was confiding in this woman, and this woman was recording him the entire time. So when the first trial ended, and the first trial ended in a mistrial, and the reason that that happened is because the jury couldn't agree. The jury couldn't agree whether they were guilty or they were deadlocked, and because they were deadlocked, they were not, neither guilty nor innocent. They just had to wait. Now, the DA had the option to not try them again, let them go free, or try them again. And something unfortunate for them happened during this time. And that was the OJ Simpson trial. So while they were incarcerated, OJ Simpson went to trial, or went to jail, for the murder of his wife.
Mhm.
And obviously, he was tried. And as we all know, he got away. He was
Mhm.
pronounced not guilty. So that was unfortunate for the Menendez brothers because, there's elections and people want to stay in office.
Yep,
And
and people were mad when OJ walked free.
mhm, so they need the state needed a win.
Yep.
They needed a
So they
fucking win.
probably pulled out all the cards for that.
And they did. And they took the Menendez brothers to trial again. But at this point, the Menendez brothers were broke. And the woman that he had confided in, he found out that he recorded all the conversations, and she herself wrote a book. She wrote the book.
Smart lady.
Yes, and made all the fucking money. Not him, but her. But his lawyer quit. The lawyer of Eric, which is a younger brother, she didn't quit. She stayed on for both of them pro bono, because at this point they were again broke. But the state decided they didn't want another mistrial, so they didn't allow the brothers to use the same defense. They didn't allow any of the sexual assault, like the sexual abuse evidence, to come into play during the second trial, which is kind of hard to say that you're not guilty because of things that happened and not be able to say the things that happened. And they were on the second trial, they were convicted for first degree murder. Now, with first degree murder, there's only two options for sentencing, and that is either the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. That's the only two options. And sentencing, they did allow um the sexual abuse evidence to come in. And did I just write on my forehead? I did.
Ow.
I don't know. I think I scratched my eye and I have mascara on, and then I wrote on my forehead. Anyways, um they did allow the evidence to come on the sentencing hearing, and they were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Some of the jurors did say that had they heard the sexual abuse, or had they seen the sexual abuse evidence during the trial, that they wouldn't have
It would have been deadlocked again.
it would have been deadlocked again. They would Some of them wouldn't have voted for guilty. Now, back to present day. They've been in jail for a really, really, really long time. After the trials, I you probably don't know about them. I do because I'm from Spain, and I'm familiar with like Spanish or Hispanic music. But Jose Menendez, he worked at RCA Records, right, and he was in charge of like the bringing more Hispanic talent. And one of the groups that he managed or brought on was the group named Menudo. Um, After the trials, one of the members of Menudo did come forward and say that Jose Menendez sexually abused them as well. Menudo was like a group kid, so they were all kids. He said that he was at a party and he was at a freak off.
Right. He was a kid.
No. He was at a party and that he was given alcohol, and then he woke up. He was not sure what had happened, but he was bleeding anally. And he was completely naked. Um, and there's been other things that have come to light, like a letter that Lyle, I keep calling him Kyle, damn it. Lyle wrote in 1988 to his cousin, um, telling him about the abuse and asking him, hey, is this normal? Does this happen to everyone? So, and the picture, so all this thing has come to light again. And that's what has prompted the new trial that's going to be held in January, um, regarding their sentencing.
Grounds of the appeal are? Is it on the new evidence?
It's on the new evidence, but it's mainly because I just realized that the wine has like stained my lips and possibly my teeth. I'm not sure. Anyways, um, it's on the evidence. It's basically the new trial is being pushed because they're saying it was unconstitutional for the courts not to allow the evidence to come into play into the second trial.
Right, because it has everything to do with the murder.
Exactly. But they didn't allow the evidence to come in. I can't. They didn't allow the evidence to come into the second trial because they didn't want to allow another deadlock jury because they needed a fucking win. Because OJ Simpson had just gotten away with fucking murder.
See,
With if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Well, they need a fucking win. They didn't allow any of the sexual abuse evidence to come into play. And that's unconstitutional.
so
So,
this is really hard. The whole story is really hard for me because I know as an abuse victim that you typically don't tell. Like I didn't tell for like 11 years that anything had happened to me. So and at the point that I told, because I had waited so long, a lot of people didn't believe me. Especially within my own like family. And with situations like that, it's kind of like, well, if no one's going to believe me, why do I keep talking about it? But I can understand, like, the person that did it to me, I no longer had physical contact with. So
mm,
11 years later, when the dream started, my anger towards him was atrocious. So I could only imagine living with my abuser and how that would make me feel. And I could understand how it could result in some form of murder. However, I also can say that the reason I didn't speak about my abuse is because I didn't live with it. It was something that happened only when I went to a certain place. So as long as I avoided that place, I avoided the abuse. Um, and so the part that throws me off, and this is just me being real, is if they really did it because of the abuse, why wasn't that the initial thing said from the beginning? Hey, we did it from the abuse. And I get it, the whole mania and, oh, well, da 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 da, it happened, now I have to deal with it, and everybody grieves different and all that. This is what throws me off. Number one, Lyle's letter or conversations with the girl that wrote the book. The faking of grief. And now, mind you, abuse can make you cold towards your abusers. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it does one of two things to you, it makes you go one of two ways. I was someone who felt guilty when my abuser passed away. Um, Not because I cared about him or anything like that, but because I felt like he never had to deal with the fact that he abused me and he wasn't forced to admit it and deal with it.
Yeah.
So when he took his life, it was a situation where it was like, of course I thought at one point or another, should the time that I ever cross paths with him, I'll probably stab him. However, um, I also don't think I would have ever actually gone through with it. But again, I didn't live with my abuser. There's just a lot of things that don't really make sense to me in their story. If they were abused and that letter that he wrote to his cousin was true and things like that, then I strongly feel like no, they don't belong in jail. I do think that they need more therapy.
They definitely do. And there was also another piece of evidence that I forgot to note. Okay, so there was physical evidence. It was Eric ended up in the hospital at one point because he had abrasions in his throat. Um like really painful abrasions in his throat. And that is very common like evidence on children that have been forced into oral
Right.
sex. So I do believe that they were abused. I um personally, I think the problem with them was like I know with like Eric for instance, he was really ashamed at the fact that he was able to get an erection. He was also really ashamed at the fact that he was happy because his father was an asshole to him all the time, except with during those times that they were alone. So
It
he
was a
felt
form of
as
seeking validation and moments that his dad would be proud of him.
yes. So he felt ashamed. He felt ashamed that he could get an erection with his father. He felt he didn't like it. He didn't want it, but he felt ashamed that during the massages and stuff like that that his father would give him, he would feel like he was loved, by his father. Like, um, I think the reason that they didn't disclose of it originally, I think the reason they didn't want to talk about it is because, for one, I mean, not nowadays, but back then, being gay was very shameful. Like it, it was something to be ashamed of. So I think there was a lot of shame, and they would.
I agree.
I think at some point they would rather be guilty just to be guilty than tell the world why it is that that they did what they did. Um, and
It's
it's
sad.
really sad. Like I think the mother was definitely complicit. I think that she knew, like, for instance, she would check Jose, so the dad was concerned that Eric wasn't using condoms and that he may have AIDS, right? And he disclosed those concerns to the mother, at which point the mother decided that it was her duty to check her 17-year-old's penis. um have him show it to her, uh to make sure that he didn't have any warts or stuff. Um and that had, I mean, that to I I I would never do that to my kid. Like, show me your penis. Um
No, they were abused and that mother knew. And if that's the case, I'm sorry. I strongly feel like it's justifiable homicide.
I think it is too. I think they should have served some time in prison. Um
They have now. So let them go home, let them be free, let them start their lives finally after dealing with the abuse and the trauma they had to deal with most of their lives. Not to mention adding the trauma of prison.
exactly. And I think it says a lot that, with the exception of, for instance, Kitty's, that's the mom. Kitty's brother is not happy about this. Kitty's brother wants them to stay in jail. But on the side of the father, especially, everyone supports them and everyone wants them to come home.
Listen, so I think they should drop the murder charge on the dad. They've served time for the murder charge on the mom, and they should be able to just go.
Finish the wine, go, go, go. What do you mean?
I mean, there's not much left.
There isn't actually. This is I finished this bottle of Campo Viejo.
I'm
I'm
sorry,
gonna
what?
regret.
Did you just call me a bad word?
Yes, I did. Deal with it. Just kidding. It's the name of the wine, Campo Viejo. It's not our sponsor, but it is delicious wine from Spain. Campo
It should
Viejo.
be our sponsor. You hear that,
It's-
Campo Blanco?
No, not white camp. Old camp. That's what it's called. And well, not camp, because campo
Old
means
Camp.
like, no, well, campo means like field. Old
Old
field.
Field. Old Field should be our sponsor.
Yes. Or 19 Crimes. Have you had their wine? It's so fucking delicious.
No, because again, I don't drink.
Well, you should, just for that. Anyways, I feel they should be free. I think they're 50 something. I think, honestly, I believe they're abused. And I think that their parents, I feel like they should be free. I think they've served enough fucking time in fucking jail. To
Any
be honest
idea
with
when
you.
their upcoming trial is?
Um, early, it was going to be this coming month, but they've pushed it to January, I think 11th.
Okay, so January, we should have some updates coming in
Mm-hmm.
with some
Yeah.
information at least. So y'all pay attention to our update Tuesdays during that time. Anything else we need to know about the Menendez brothers?
Not that I can think of right now, but
You muted
eh,
yourself.
no, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
When?
Just when you were saying whatever you were saying, no one heard it.
I did not mute myself, but we love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to us another time. Till next time.
Like, subscribe,
Goodbye.
follow, share.
All of that.